American movie classics, film archives. The story of the early days of motion pictures with rare footage from the renowned Killiam collection.
Barbershop is one of the first vaudeville skits ever turned into a movie. In fact, it's one of the first movies ever made in this country. That's why print quality and the movement look a bit strange. Although the title fixes the copyright as 1897, it was actually made in 1893, 4 years earlier, for use in Edison's Peep Show kinetoscope. When movies began to be shown on screens, many of the Peep Show subjects were resurrected to answer the demand for new pictures. The copyright notices were inserted to discourage the unauthorized use of prints. The barber's attention is distracted by the girl's legs in the window, much to the customer's discomfort. This was high comedy back when the movies were born. Majestic was one of the independent studios that joined in 1913 under the name of Mutual for mutual protection against the big film trust, the General Film Company. A Mother's Influence is a classic story of a stern father, his stenographer, who loves his son, and his son, played by handsome, tragic Wallace Reed. The scratch is unavoidable. The negative was lost, and we had to reproduce from the only remaining scratched print. A Rose for Billy. Wally Reed began acting at the age of 4, and by this time he was a popular leading man just on the verge of stardom. Often as the adventurous son of a wealthy father, he kept female hearts aflutter until his untimely death in 1923. A classic movie situation, a rich father opposed to his sons marrying beneath his station. But how economically established, a speed of storytelling indigenous to the early one-reel features. Father wants to pay her off and get her out of their lives. If such a plan ever worked, hundreds of movies over most of a century would have had their plots nipped in the bud. If she goes, I go. Though the audience knew this meant that the old man would disinherit their hero, they admired Wally's open and forthright manner, his strength of character, traits that were stressed in many of his later films and made all the more shocking the revelations at the end of his career. The father is played by Al Filson. And now a striking bit of early parallel editing. The wife shopping, the speeding car, Wally working, Billy coming home, Wally coming home, the car, Wally, and Billy, the hit-and-run victim. A neighbor sees. One result of the compression in the rapid storytelling in early films was the unrealistic handling of the seriously injured. her hip. He'll need money. Should he forget his pride and ask his father's help? I'm going to see my father. At this time, the movies were still primarily the working man's theater, and the picture of wealth they presented was both theatrical and fairly unsympathetic, especially when contrasted with the poor but honest. This sequence is in ironic contrast to Reed's own life. Hal Reed, his father, an actor and playwright, encouraged and supported every step in the son's career. The Yeggmen. Film titles at this time, biographs even more than majestics, often preceded the announcement of new elements with the preposition "the," as if we were already familiar with them. Keys. He still has his house keys. She's asleep? I'll be back shortly. The Yeggmen. These outdoor night scenes were, of course, shown originally in blue tint. The scenarists strain our credulity a bit, having this straight-shooter character, even in his great need, actually break in on his own father. And just as hard to believe is that the Yeggmen professionals have had the same idea at the exact same time. A lap-dissolve flashback, one of its earliest uses. Professionals are not as likely to have second thoughts. The business of hiding behind a table becomes a little more credible if you remember the scene was dark blue. Wallace Reed's favorite finale, alone and unarmed against two strong and desperate men. One of whom gets away. But not the other. Wally comes clean. Billy's accident, his own foolish scheme, and his respect for his mother. At the outset, we called Reed handsome but tragic. Off-screen, shortly after stardom, he had an accident and during hospitalization became drug addicted. He was dead only 10 years after this film. Iris in for the tableau. In the short features, the neatest way of showing the happy ending. In this case, for a film which started with son giving the stenographer a rose and ends with father doing same. The M is not for mother, but is the majestic company logo.
You're watching Mystery Night on American Movie Classics.
I love Mystery Monday, but then, of course, Tuesday comes along, and that means delightful comedy on American Movie Classics. First, James Stewart tomorrow, and Ginger Rogers may or may not be the perfect couple in the hilarious comedy called Vivacious Lady. Character actors Charles Coburn and Beulah Bondi add to the merriment in this amusing George Stevens classic. And then Carol Lombard and Robert Montgomery and Gene Raymond from the classic love triangle in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's an out-and-out farce, directed by none other than Alfred Hitchcock. Now, today's movie classic question. The role of the tough guy cop Harry Callahan has been associated with Clint Eastwood through Dirty Harry and its numerous spin-offs. But do you know who was the first actor to be offered that role? I'll have the answer for you tomorrow. You might not get this one. For American Movie Classics, one of the channels of the Rainbow Service.
You're watching American Movie Classics on the Rainbow Service.
If you missed any part of today's film, stay tuned. We're going to show them again.
Bravo makes watching great movies and the finest performances easy for you. Every weeknight at 8 Eastern, you'll always find an outstanding international film, followed by the best in the world of performing arts. Then you'll see another great movie, part 2 of Bravo's nightly double feature. And Saturdays at 5 Eastern, Bravo makes beautiful music with Saturday Afternoon at the Opera. And Sundays at 5, you can curl up with a classic film favorite. Bravo, just one of the 2 channels of the Rainbow Service. We make it easy to find what you're looking for.